Well, hello and welcome to Coffee Club, the Scottish Sun Sports weekly look at Scottish football. I'm Robert Grieve. With me usually is Mr. Bill Leckie. He's absent this week, unavailable for selection. So a fairly decent substitute, Mr. David Friel. Hi, David.
Hi, Robert.
Good to see you.
Before we start, I'm not going to beat about the bush here. I know Bill's not
I was
here.
going to say that.
I don't want you singing songs about Bill Leckie.
Oh, I tell you what.
I want you to...
You would read my script. You would read my script because I was going to go there. Absolutely going to go there. Yeah, we're not going to beat about the bush this week. Let's get straight into it. Brendan Rodgers, what have you made of the last 48, 72 hours?
Interesting. I mean, when I heard the kind of score coming through from Celtic Park, I'm thinking it's as routine as you probably get. And I don't mean that with disrespect to St Mirren, but Celtic eventually...
That's a bit disrespectful as well.
Really. Celtic, you expect them to eventually break St Mirren down. It's a 3-0 win. Everybody's happy. You know, you're back to 13 points clear. You know, it's been cut to 11 by Rangers, 13 points clear. And then it's one of those press conferences that you end up getting texts about from people saying, you want to hear what Brendan Rodgers said? Yeah. And it was one of those ones where you think, where did that come from? And I think there's two themes going on. One about the fans moaning and groaning about perceived negative football, passing the ball back, and the other one is the Kieran Tierney situation in terms of singing songs and whether that's disrespectful to Greg Taylor. So, yeah, I didn't expect to be sitting here talking about that. On a weekend where Rangers, dropped more points, but it's been such a big talking point.
Right, so let's get into it then, because as you say, Greg Taylor's playing for Celtic, he's doing really well, he's not signing a new contract, whether we don't know whether that's because he doesn't want to sign a new contract or whether Celtic have basically offered him a contract that he doesn't find acceptable either way. He's playing for Celtic and he's hearing the Celtic fans singing about Kieran Tierney. It's not great for him. So can you understand from that point of view why Brendan Rodgers is saying what he's saying, or I kind of think it's all a bit about nothing?
Yeah, to me, if Greg Taylor, and we don't know, listen, Greg Taylor's not been put up to speak. I don't know how Greg Taylor is feeling about the whole situation. Maybe Brendan Rodgers felt that Greg Taylor had taken it as a slight that the Celtic fans did. But saying about Kieran Tierney, my point is, in that sense, is he protecting the player? I don't know. Maybe he feels he is. To me, it was something out of nothing. I don't really think there's that much problem with the Celtic fans saying about Kieran Tierney, given his history with the club, given that we all know that there's a high chance Kieran Tierney is about to sign a pre-contract with Celtic. Our colleague Derek McGregor has, right back from last summer, has said that Brendan Rodgers was keen to explore a possibility. Obviously, didn't happen then. Things have moved on in terms of the option with the contract. Celtic want him to sign a pre-contract. I think they'd quite like to have him in this month. If not, he'll come in the summer. Now, nobody at Celtic has ever tried to shut that down. Brendan Rodgers has spoken about Kieran Tierney in glowing terms. Well, exactly. So Brendan Rodgers has spoken about Kieran Tierney in glowing terms, basically said he does keep in touch with him, etc. So I don't really understand why singing about him now is deemed as being disrespectful to Greg Taylor. Listen, I think most Celtic fans, if you took a poll right now, most Celtic fans would want Kieran Tierney and Greg Taylor as the two left backs. Kieran Tierney can even play inside. I didn't see it as a slight. I was quite surprised at Brendan Rodgers' take on it. My only thinking is, does he think that he was protecting Greg Taylor? And maybe that might help convince him to stay, because we don't know what's going on in the negotiation. It looks as if it's not coming to a conclusion at any point soon. But I was very surprised.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's separate issues here. There's a Greg Taylor issue which has been connected now to the Kieran Tierney situation, which is, there's a degree of connection there because Greg Taylor's obviously looking to see who Celtic are going to be bringing in as a left back, and if it's Kieran Tierney, he's maybe thinking, well, how's that going to impact me? Fair enough. There's a contract situation, as we touched on, which we don't know about. Greg Taylor is usually the player who gets put up every other week at Celtic since he's signed for the club. I've not spoken to him in months because there's a situation. They don't put him up, so nobody knows what his feelings are on it. If he wants to leave Celtic, we've spoken about this before, if he feels the time has come for him to leave Celtic, it's a big contract he needs to get now. This isn't a guy that's made a lot of money throughout his career. He's gone to Celtic relatively late, having been a Kilmarnock player. So there's that element to it. But with the Kieran Tierney situation, I don't think for 1 minute the Celtic fans who were singing about Kieran Tierney against in the St Mirren match the other day were thinking that it was a slight on Greg Taylor. I don't think the Greg Taylor situation was part of it at all. I don't think for 1 minute they were thinking, let's sing about Kieran Tierney. Not that it's ever orchestrated, but let's sing about Kieran Tierney because that's will put pressure on Greg Taylor, who's refused to sign a new contract. It's been connected, and I don't think it should have been connected. But Celtic play tonight. I'm going to Celtic Park tonight, and I can guarantee, you can almost guarantee they're going to sing about Kieran Tierney.
I know.
Probably more than they did in the St Mirren game. So it's kind of, is it maybe backfire? I was at the Lennoxtown yesterday, was speaking to Brendan Rodgers about it. I thought he handled it pretty well. He wasn't up in arms about the whole thing.
No.
The quotes actually were really good, and he was quite relaxed about it, I thought. And he was making the point as well that, well, if I feel as though I want to say something about the Celtic support, I'm going to say it. We're joking about the whole, I'm not going to beat about the bush when I'm talking about the bush, which he said before, by the way. It's a favourite phrase of his. He said it a while back. Anyway, so, but is it almost creating an issue that wasn't really there? If he'd not said anything about it, you know what I mean? The Celtic fans would maybe sing for 10 minutes about Kieran Tierney tonight, whereas now I think there's going to be more of an issue, which is maybe if Celtic don't score in the first 10 minutes, the whole how they're playing becomes more of an issue.
I know.
So,
yeah, I think in terms of the Tierney
Brendan
thing,
Rodgers doesn't ever do anything by accident.
No, he doesn't. But I also think
there must be kind of method to why he said what he said when he said it.
But I would agree with that on the moans and groans about passing the ball back. I'm not sure in the Tierney-Taylor thing. I do think Greg Taylor was obviously injured when he came off the pitch. I do think there was a bit of protection, and I think he did blow something up that probably didn't need to. And it's created something, as you said tonight. We're obviously recording this Wednesday morning. Celtic play against Dundee United. You know, do the Celtic fans chant Kieran Tierney's name? But see if they do, I don't think that's a slight in Greg Taylor. I don't also think it's a slight in Alec Bailly, who's also a left back at Celtic. I think they just want Kieran Tierney back. Yeah,
but the point is, something that wasn't a particularly big issue for the Celtic supporters, I don't think. They're just singing about Kieran Tierney, just because they're singing. And as you say, he's one of their own, and they're singing about Kieran Tierney. Brendan Rodgers has said what he said. They're now going to sing about him again. I'm convinced of it, and that becomes more of an issue. And but more than anything, it becomes an issue from what I'm reading and hearing from Celtic fans I know, is the idea that Brendan Rodgers is telling them what they can and can't sing. Because, as we well know, there is still an element of the Celtic support who, as much as Brendan Rodgers should have blown them out of the water in terms of what he's done since coming back, there's still going to be that element who, the first wrong turn that Brendan Rodgers makes, they're going to pounce on him. And this could be something that they pounce on, because Celtic fans, especially a certain section of Celtic fans, won't be told what to do.
Yeah, and this, but again, this comes back to this kind of two different themes thing. I think the Tierney thing has upset a lot of Celtic fans more than the don't moan and groan about the team and trust the team. I think it's just
the general idea that they've been told what they can and can't sing.
I do think the Tierney thing, it's almost like, well, what are you talking about? Why don't tell us? We're not. You're telling us we're disrespecting a player. We're not. Whereas I think with the moans and groans, which I'm sure we'll come on to, I think it was more probably off the back of Celtic getting thumped at Ibrox.
Yeah, absolutely.
And punters are there thinking, right, entertaining, score goals, and then 20 minutes in, you know,
but it's a whole,
it doesn't happen.
But it's a whole, have you not been entertained?
No, exactly.
I mean, Celtic fans, of any group of fans this season who cannot have any complaints about how their team are playing, it's Celtic fans.
100%. And
that's why Brendan Rodgers is annoyed.
Yeah,
because he's thinking, wait a minute, I've done this, and this since coming back. We've won these games, we're flying in Europe, we've got a great chance I could get through to the next round, and you're groaning when the ball goes back a couple of passes. You know what I mean? I can understand that element
that's
of
what I'm saying. I think we both agree with that element of it. It's the Tierney one that's left us a bit
100%.
puzzled. And again tonight, the United game, I think there's going to be a kind of two-pronged thing in terms of, do Celtic come out flying? Do fans start moaning and groaning when the ball goes past? But also the Tierney thing. And the Tierney thing has now just become, it's going arms and legs. You know, he's on the bench again for Arsenal. You know, I do think a deal will be done this month.
So they are.
I think it's probably put more pressure on Celtic, Tierney and Greg Taylor, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no doubt, and you point out, by the time people are watching, if you're watching this on Thursday morning, you'll have known what's happened, and it could be Celtic fans say, Brendan Rodgers, right, we shouldn't be singing about Kieran Tierney, it's disrespectful to Greg Taylor, let's sing about Greg Taylor. And by the way, I also wouldn't surprise if they do both, if they sing about Greg Taylor tonight and Kieran Tierney, because I don't think it's connected. I really don't. But I don't know. It's just as I said earlier on, I don't think Brendan Rodgers ever says anything by accident. He comes into a press conference with us, and I think he's golden. I still think he's great for a media point of view, because you can generally ask him a question and he gives you an answer. He comes in with a bit of paper, he's got ideas in his head, he kind of thinks about what he's going to be saying in the media. He doesn't often I think he often goes off script, what he's planning to say.
He does have notes.
But he does come in with notes. I always watch him. He doesn't really refer to them very often, but he obviously thinks about what kind of message he wants to be putting out. He said yesterday how he was asked, are you surprised by the reaction to what you said at the weekend? And he said, I don't really pay much attention. Is that right? Has there been a reaction? Is that your world? That's not my world. Come on, right? You know as well as I do, Brendan Rodgers, he's probably watching this, right? Right? So, which is great, which is brilliant. And also, as much as I'm saying I'm surprised by what Brendan Rodgers said about the Kieran Tierney situation, the Greg Taylor situation, I'm never going to ever say that Brendan Rodgers shouldn't,
not at all,
or any manager for that matter, say what he feels, because that was one of the points I made to him yesterday. Is it important? I asked him that he feels able to speak his mind, and that's when he spoke about how, I'm never going to beat about the bush when I'm talking about the bush, and he went on about how he's too long in the tooth to be sitting quietly when he feels as though he's got something to say. And I think power to him for that, because he could easily have sat there yesterday because of his history with the Celtic support and backed down a little bit and said, listen, that was you guys, and blamed it on us maybe. You guys are blowing us up. I didn't mean that. And he didn't. He doubled down on it, and I thought fair play. Don't back down, double down. Mm-hmm. And I thought fair play to him.
I know. And that's, as you say, look, he's an experienced guy. He'll have known what he's saying. He'll expect reaction. The United game's actually over the 2 spells his 250th game as Celtic manager.
Right.
And I agree, there's still that maybe fractious relationship.
Do you think it's still there? Because I think it bubbles under.
I don't think it's a fractious relationship in the sense that Brendan Rodgers has just been tolerated by a section of sport at all. I think there's a respect. I think every single person realises he's a very good coach, a very good manager, and a guy who has guided Celtic to success, is guiding Celtic to more success, and is also making progress in Europe. But I think there'll always be that bit behind it where, with the Tierney stuff, for example, saying don't sing that, it's disrespectful, I think there will be a section of Celtic fans who say, do not tell us what to do and don't tell us what we're thinking, because I think that's my point. About the moans and groans, I think most Celtic fans will say, right, okay, you were probably right, we're a wee bit too uppity about things. The Tierney thing, I think most Celtic fans are saying, no, Brendan.
If Ange Postecoglou was still the Celtic manager and said exactly the same thing, there wouldn't be half as many Celtic fans who say, don't tell us what to do.
I would agree.
It's because it's Brendan Rodgers, who, and there's still an element, rightly or wrongly, who think, whoa, wait a minute, you left us in a lurch. Yeah. So, as much as we're happy to have you back, and as much as we're pleased with the job you're doing, don't you tell us what to do. And
I think you've seen that with the reaction. And I'm not talking about, faceless people on social media and stuff like that. You're talking about sensible, reasoned, rational people who are saying, who are saying, look, that's a wee step too far. Let's not go there.
Yeah. Here's one for you. Kieran Tierney, as we say, we think he's coming back. We've covered the story in the paper, online, everywhere about Kieran Tierney potentially coming back. What do you make of that as a signing?
I think it's
on the face of it. On the face of it, it's a sensational. The story gets written. It's a sensational return for Kieran Tierney, which I think it is. Does Kieran Tierney fit into the way Celtic play?
Yeah, because you just make him fit into the way Celtic
play.
Where
will he play?
Plays a left back. He could also play. I think there'll be certain games at home where he could easily play as a left centre half, but in the same way he does with Scotland, almost, where you're kind of bombing on as well, and someone will maybe kind of fit in where it's a midfielder steps in. But I think if you're getting Kieran Tierney at 27, right, he's got years ahead of him, right? And I know he's had injury problems, all that, right? But he is a Premier League player. He's an English Premier League player, and you're getting Kieran Tierney because he loves Celtic. He probably wants up the road, and he just wants to be there, right? If he was coming from any other background, you probably wouldn't be able to sign a player of that 100%. Calibre. So you take him. It's going to be the wages will fit into the wage system. There's obviously going to be an outlay in whatever way Celtic structure the deal. But to me, you're getting a 27-year-old international defender, huge Premier League experience. You're also buying your next captain, or you're signing your next captain, because Cal McGregor still got a few years left in him, but won't last forever. Kieran Tierney will probably play a bit longer. Captain, and he's a Scot, which you need for the homegrown quota. I just think it ticks every box. And to me, where does he fit in? And I know Greg Taylor kind of steps in a lot. Alistair Johnson's more down the line. I think Celtic will just mix it up a wee bit, but I think you make him fit. You can't knock back the chance to sign Kieran Tierney.
I agree with you 100%, and I don't want this to sound as though I'm saying it. I don't think Celtic should be signing. No, it's not that. But I think his injury history has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be, but I also think you can manage that. You know, Kieran Tierney, listen, he's an all-action left-back at his very, very best. But I think Celtic are in a position in the Scottish Premiership where you do not need to flog Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney is a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old who's probably playing 60 games a season, right? When he comes back to Celtic, and it will happen, you could get away with playing Kieran Tierney 35, 40 times a season. He doesn't need to play in every game. And I think that's a big part of the reason why Brendan Rodgers is so keen to get Greg Taylor tied down as well. I think he sees a squad and a rotation in there that both play their fair share of games. As I said, Kieran Tierney is adaptable enough to flit inside and play as left centre half. He actually did it a couple of times in Brendan Rodgers' first spell. He's very good at it. I think he's okay. Maybe doesn't have the height, but he's good on the ball. He's a great defender. He's got pace. So I easily think there's a way to fit both of them in. And I just think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. As I just say, I just think that his injury history, I think it's been horrendous for the boy, because I think he has been hampered by it a lot. There's no doubt about that. But and I do wonder where I wonder if he's maybe going to play more games as left centre back than left back. I think that maybe suit him. And also, here's a prediction for you. I wonder if he does come back to Celtic, whether he kiboshes his Scotland career. I wonder if part of not the agreement, but if you're Celtic, if you're Brendan Rodgers, because of his history, I wonder, even at 27, and in theory he should have his best years ahead of him, I wonder if the Scotland career gets knocked in the head.
I don't know, I think that's maybe a bit premature because he is only 27. I just think there's a way for Celtic to lighten the load with Kieran Tierney. Look, he's had his injury problems again off the back of the Euros, obviously got injured. And I think the problem you sometimes got with Kieran Tierney is he's so committed. He gives everything to him. You know, every training session.
Also, you never just call him Tierney.
You always call him Kieran Tierney. I know. It's one of those ones. Anyway, Kieran Tierney. I just think there's a way for Celtic to say, look, let's manage him. He doesn't need to go full-blooded every training session, every game. There'll be certain games where he doesn't need to play, and then just see how it goes. But I just think, as I said, he's the next captain for Celtic for me. You're not getting... I just don't... I've heard people say, oh, it's a massive gamble, it's a massive risk.
No, I just don't agree.
I just think it's a no-brainer.
I don't think it's that far. I wouldn't go anywhere near that far. It's not a gamble for me. It's a great signing. As I say, I'm 100% thinking it's a great signing for Celtic. I think it's almost a no-brainer. If you can get it done, you get it done. It boosts the fans. He's a guy that can play. He's a top-level player. Let's not get away from it. He's a top-level player. He's going to cost Celtic a significant amount of money, albeit he'll be taking a wage cut to come back to Scotland. But it's a serious signing for Celtic. But I just hope that he comes back. I would hate for Kieran Tierney to come back and be hampered by injury the way he has been, and for that to be the way it kind of peters out for him. I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will happen. I think if they manage him correctly, hopefully he's got nothing that's going to prevent him from playing 40 games a season. You know, but I think if you're getting a player on the kind of money they'll have to pay him, then you would be wanting to play 30, 40 games a season.
Yeah, of course, and that's what I'm saying. He'll play, to me, injury permitting, he would play all the big games and the vast majority of games. I just think there'll be certain games in a season where you don't need to risk him. And that's not the case maybe down if you're going to be the Arsenal left back or going sign for Brighton or something like that. You know, they'll want someone to be going full pelt for 50 games a season. I don't think Celtic need that. They don't. No. They just need someone to come in, be a top level player for the games that really, really matter. So
let's go full circle then. If you're Greg Taylor, and again, we don't know what he's been offered. Celtic maybe just offered him a pitiful amount because they don't really want him to stay. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. But if there's a deal to be done there, and they can come to an agreement of what he would accept, if you're Greg Taylor, do you stay at Celtic?
I think Greg Taylor is...
You just call him Taylor.
I think Greg, I'll call him. No, to me, it's you can allude to Taylor. It's such a big deal for his career, right?
I feel for him.
I feel for him as well. And do you know what the maddest thing about
this whole... Do you
know what the maddest thing about this whole situation, the Greg Taylor, Kieran Tierney thing is? They're actually really good friends. They're actually quite close.
Yeah.
But anyway, to me, it's more for Greg Taylor's career. I think he's got 200 Celtic games. He's a great time at Celtic. He's won everything. Maybe he wants to experience something new. He's about to become a father. He needs to look after the family. He needs to think long term. He's very close friends with Chris Ayer, Ryan Christie, guys who have gone down south.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Christie had to take a step down to the Championship with Bournemouth to come back up. I wonder whether he is weighing everything up here to say it's not just about, am I going to play every week for Celtic? There's a lifestyle thing.
Absolutely.
There's a family thing. So, and Brendan Rodgers is very good at understanding players, understanding finances for players and what they want to do. So I think he's given them a bit of space. I dare say Celtic have offered him a very good deal. I think it's he's well within his rights to say, is there something else out there that is just gives me a new adventure, good for the family, and I'm going to play every week as opposed to maybe every second week. I don't know. I couldn't sit here right now and guess what Greg Taylor's going to do.
You wonder if it is going to go weeks, months before we actually find out whether, if he has already maybe decided that he's going to be going, they wouldn't make that public. Unless he signs a pre-contract somewhere else, which again you don't need to do that. So it's not within anyone's best interest to come out and for Greg Taylor to come out now and say, well, I'm going to sign for X. I'm leaving the Celtic. It wouldn't do him any favours. So I don't know. I just feel for him. I think he's not put a foot wrong since he's come to Celtic. Moved to Celtic from Kelly. And it's a big deal for him, you know. And I think he has to feel wanted. And I don't know. I think that's maybe part of it. Here's a question for you: if Greg Taylor leaves Celtic tomorrow, where does he go? What kind of level does he go to?
I think he could go to the top end of the Championship, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went further afield.
Abroad.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I just look at it. I'm not saying I know he's been like with Dinamo Zagreb and he's been talking to MLS and stuff. I just feel that, as you say, look, he's a good player, another international player. Is he going to get a Premier League club?
No,
probably not.
So.
No,
as much as I really like him, I don't think he would.
I don't think there's any reason why he can't go and get a top end Championship club with aspirations of becoming a Premier League club.
And more money.
So again, everybody, and listen, it's your job to ask, is there any update? Right? He's still got 5-6 months left in his deal. He's well within his rights.
100%.
To say, you know what?
100%.
Look, can we just calm down here?
100%.
You've made your offer. Is that your best offer? Thanks. I'm just going to look about.
Yeah.
And then
if
it comes to me and he goes to Celtic, if he comes, and I know Celtic will probably be pushing for an answer, but if I was Greg Taylor, I would just wait and see what my options are.
100%. I think if you were him, you'd be doing exactly.
Because he's going to get a club. It's not as if he's going to be a guy that's going to be left. He's going to get a good club at a good level. So I think, as you say, I think Greg Taylor has been an underappreciated Celtic player. I know there's people out there that think, oh, he doesn't do this, and he's always probably been the irony compared to Kieran Tierney. He does different things. Kieran Tierney himself has spoken about Greg Taylor and how he does a lot of stuff much better than he could ever do coming in field, etc., etc. I just think he's a guy who will eventually leave Celtic and people maybe appreciate the service he gave.
Yeah, he's also, as Gordon Strachan describes these people, as a good teammate. He's someone who...
A radiator, Gordon Strachan calls him.
Radiator. Right, okay. We're not going to go with you are. Rangers, I was at Easter Roads on, what day is this? I was at Easter Road on Sunday. Had a hellish journey back, let me tell you. Never mind that. Rangers cruised it, absolutely tremendous for 30 minutes. Then the wheels come off the bogey. Talk to me about that, because they were outstanding against Celtic, albeit Celtic in the Old Firm derby I thought were dire. They admit themselves there was no edge to their play, but Rangers were exceptional that day, as they have been in certain European games, as they were against Tottenham at Ibrox. They were outstanding against Celtic. They go to Easter Road, you wonder what kind of Rangers team's going to turn up, and they do turn up. They started brilliantly. Hibs were shaky, they were nervous at the back early on. Rangers punished them, but then the wheels come off. What is it with this Rangers team?
Well, I'll ask you one question. Were you surprised that Rangers dropped points? And this is the problem, you're saying, what is it with this?
Well, I was, because they started the game so well.
I know, but Robert, the away form is a real issue bordering on being unacceptable. You know,
no bothering about it.
12 points out of 30 away from home. Rangers have dropped 18 points away from home. And I get there's different demands, right? But Ross County went 15 months without winning an away game. Ross County have got 12 points away from home this season, the same as Rangers.
Yeah.
It's a real problem, and I know Philippe Clement will try and look at other things after the game and penalty and everything like that, but he needs to find a way to win away games. He can't get away with saying it's a young group, we've got injuries or offsides, a penalty. Rangers shouldn't be dropping having played 10 games, shouldn't be dropping 18 points away from home. They just shouldn't. And if you're 2-0 up in a game, and then 3-2 up in a game, and you still can't see it out to get a win,
That's the thing. He spoke about the penalty incident, and it was soft. I would say it was one of those decisions you could easily go either way. If the referee doesn't give it, VAR isn't stepping in to say it's a clear and obvious mistake, it's a penalty. Equally, I think Yanis Hadji was a little bit naive the way he kind of went about it. But I did agree with sympathy with him as well on it, to be in all honesty. It was one of those ones, right? But the point is, Rangers got back in front.
I know.
Rangers actually dealt with that situation and got back in front. So they made it redundant. They made that argument redundant by getting ahead again. Hamza Igamani was immense. In fact, he almost went in the dying seconds, brushing off Rocky Bashiri, showing real strength, powering through and hitting the outside of the post. He was incredible. He was a great game, the boy.
He's a superstar, by the way. He'll make a lot of money for Rangers.
I wouldn't go as far as a superstar.
I think he's very good.
He's a very, very good player. But Rangers dealt with the situation of the penalty, of being clawed back, and yet still, from a set piece, they still weren't good enough. I don't know. I think for Philippe Clement, and we've spoken about this so often on this podcast, this a podcast, whatever it is, before, about the things that Philippe Clement says after games. And I was listening to him in the press room at Easter Road, and again I'm thinking to myself, no, don't go down that road, because that's not what Rangers fans want to hear. Liam Kelly came in and sat down and said, no, there's no point in us talking about how good we were and talking about how we were good at this and good at that. Nobody wants to hear it. Philippe Clement came in and immediately said, yeah, we're disappointed, but the penalty, I'm sorry, Philip, that's not what fans want to hear, and it's not really the truth, because you dealt with that situation. They got back ahead and still couldn't see the game out.
That was where, and I get, we maybe pay more attention sometimes to what's said after the games, because you're writing it down, you're transcribing it, but when he said at one point, Hibs get the penalty and it gave them momentum, and I'm like, and they went 3-2 up, so the momentum couldn't have been that. I think continuously after games, he kind of almost goes down the wrong theme. To me, Rangers fans just want honesty, right? They, as you said, see for half an hour, outstanding. Igamani, outstanding. But no matter whether it's Leon King, Leon Balogun, whoever's left in your central defence at the end, you're 3-2 up with minutes to go and you didn't see the game out. You just need to come in and put your hands up. You don't talk about a penalty that, as you said, I'll ask you this, would Philippe Clement have been screaming for that penalty if it'd been up the other end?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those penalties, it's not a penalty.
100%. Neil Lennon said that, I think, in his studio analysis. It was, whatever manager you are, you think it's that.
It's not an absolute howler of an error. It's one of those ones that can maybe go 50-50, 60-40. The referee says, I think that's a penalty. VAR looking at it and saying, well, I can understand why that.
In fairness, you know yourself, if it was, there'd be an outcry from the Rangers support, social media, whatever, to say, oh, we've been wrong. They were.
No.
It was one of those, you know what I mean?
But it brings me back to bring back to Philippe Clement's taking it and where Rangers are, is the problem, is it a mental thing? Is it an inability to play against the so-called lesser teams? I wouldn't say Hibs away at Easter Road is a lesser team. I think that's always going to be one of your toughest ones. And if you're scoring 3 goals, leading twice, you should be seeing it out. But Nico Raskin, after the Celtic game, basically said that they need to find a way to win those games. They're not quite there yet, they're not quite good enough. But I don't understand that when you've got players worth multi-million pounds and so much experience.
Yeah.
I don't think it's okay for Philippe Clement to hide behind referee decisions, injuries and being a young team. I don't see that. I think Rangers are more than good enough, as they've showed against Celtic and Spurs recently, to be going and winning the vast majority of their away games. But at the Dundee Thursday night, would you back Rangers to win that game?
No, absolutely not. They are a decent team on form. They're more than capable of getting results, especially at Dens Park on a Thursday night, albeit the Rangers are decent on a Thursday night. It's maybe they play every game on a Thursday night, but no, very interesting, a really interesting game that. But where does this leave Clement? I mean, we spoke about it. I mean, we've not been doing this podcast for a couple of weeks now. Pre-Christmas, we're talking about Philippe Clement's future. They've gone and beaten Celtic convincingly at Ibrox with everyone it says a fantastic performance in the Old Firm derby. But here we are we're still debating his future. Now, if Rangers had the money that Celtic have in the bank, I think he's long gone. Long gone. I don't think there's any way, shape or form that he's still the Rangers manager. I think it's a financial thing. which clearly has to be taken into consideration. But where does it? Is it just purely they have to just plough on, regardless of results?
I actually feel for Patrick Stewart and the Rangers board right now in terms of trying to work this out, right? Because you would write down a list, pros and cons. Why would you keep him? Why would you not keep him? Philippe Clement. But how can you sack a manager? Some people will be saying, how can you sack a manager that can get a team to perform at that level against Celtic, get a team to come within a whisker of beating Spurs in Europa League, go away from home and beat Nice? But then the cons are, well, a manager can't be taking 12. A Rangers manager can't be taking 12 points out of 30, and I genuinely think the Rangers board and chief must be quite torn on what's going on. You know, do they back him and say, regardless of how far you fall behind Celtic, we need to stick with this guy because he's got us on the right road, and the evidence of that is the Old Firm game, or the Nice game, or the Spurs game? Or do you say, forget about that, those were outliers? You can't be dropping 18 points away from home out of 30. It's where do you fall between that?
What do you think?
I keep thinking he's one of these managers who, just when you think he's absolutely on the brink, he pulls a result out.
Yeah.
And to me, I thought before the Celtic game, if Celtic had won that game convincingly, he was gone.
Yeah.
I think that gave him a lot of credit in the bank. And again, you then look at the Hibs one. So much to like about it in a way, in terms of the play, but then it comes down to winning games. It comes down to finding a way to win, because Rangers singing and dancing quite rightly after beating Celtic. 3 days later, you're back to 13 points behind.
Yeah, which we spoke about. I wrote a column about it at the weekend. As much as Rangers were fantastic against Celtic, where are we at with Philippe Clement? Because you wouldn't put your house on them beating Hibs at Easter Road, and they didn't. They were outstanding for 30 minutes. That's the thing. I was sitting there watching it going, right, they're not losing this game. They're not dropping points in this game. They're going to win this 3-4-5-0 maybe. And then one little thing, they lose a goal, they a lapse in concentration, maybe a bit of... Hibs get a bit of a break in terms of their first goal back from Boyle. Wasn't he terrible defending by any stretch of imagination? The ball broke. Bashiri lays it back for Martin Boyle, and he's a decent finish. But after that, it became a basketball game. Rangers shouldn't have allowed that situation to develop. There doesn't seem to be any kind of capability of coping with those situations. As soon as it went 2-1, it was game on again. They didn't manage the situation, and it goes to 3-2. They then can't, when they're winning with 10 minutes to go, whatever it was, they still can't manage the situation. I think Philippe Clement has to take a whole lot of responsibility for that. And that's why, I don't know.
My gut feeling is that Rangers will now probably, unless they went through a run of home form that was really bad, right? I think Rangers are probably going to let them see out the season, right?
Yeah, I would say so now.
People talk
unless they go on a dire
run. But people talk about Michael Beale and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, but they were both sacked when the title was still on. Yeah. You know, Rangers were in a mode then of thinking, right, well, we need to try and salvage a title bid here. So let's, it was like October, November, so it wasn't fully out. I don't think, Rangers are going to qualify for the next stage Europa League, right? They've got Scottish Cup to start. They're probably not going to spend that much money in January. I thought it was really interesting after the game when he was asked.
Yeah, he said that before the game as well.
When he was asked, and he said Patrick Stewart's going to address that.
He said that before the game as well. It's interesting.
And to me, that kind of suggested that Rangers might get a couple of loans in, but they're not going to be spending money in this window because the money's not there. So it's not as if you're going bankrolling with £10 million in this window. I think Rangers probably just have to make do, maybe a couple of loans. And then in the summer, I think Rangers take stock and just see, is this a project that's worth backing for the start of next season? Or do we just call it quits? And look, thanks a lot, Philippe, for your business. But I think he's been almost at the point of no return, and he just claws it back. And I think that the game at Ibrox against Celtic was so convincing that I still think there'll be people within that Rangers hierarchy say, but look at that, maybe that's a sign of things to come. And see, sometimes, and it's like Hibs with David Gray, sometimes you just need to hold your nerve.
Yeah.
Sometimes, as I think it was John Bennett said, you can't just rinse and repeat and just keep sacking managers, right? And I was in the camp where I thought he was very, very lucky to keep a hold of his job. A couple of weeks ago, probably the Dundee United game, I think the one each draw, where Rangers were horrendous.
Yeah.
But I think the fact he's managed to get through that, again, there's been ups and downs. I just feel now, is there any point? in making a change right now?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't know if there is.
I'd agree with that. And to a certain extent, I've got a bit of sympathy for him, actually. He's a human being, you know. He's a good guy. He seems like we don't speak to him we don't get particularly close to him. But he's a decent guy, I think.
He's a decent guy, but do you know what one thing he needs to start doing? See, before the games, he's very gracious about our team. He always talks about our team and being very good, but nobody ever scores a good goal against Rangers. He always blames bad defending. And I know some managers do that, but he seems to do it a lot more. And I feel sorry for some of the guys, especially Tawanda Maswanisi, who scored one of the best goals of his career against Rangers for Motherwell.
Yeah, he did.
And it was apparently down at Rangers. It was just a good goal.
So
sometimes, Philippe, you just need to say, you know what, it was a good goal.
Yeah, as I say, we keep saying it, he says and does things that you can, but even before the Old Firm game, where he volunteers 2 days before the game that James Tavernier's not playing. It's like, great story, thanks Philip. You know, but Philippe, sorry. But why are you doing that? Celtic, on the other side of the city, are pulling their hair out about stories being leaked, about teams getting leaked. And here's the Rangers manager saying, by the way, our captain's not playing. You know?
See, one thing I would say is, to me, he's a guy who is all into this. You know? I think sometimes he needs to take a wee step back. To me, he gets too caught up in things. Sometimes I think he's getting handsomely paid for the job, but I think he takes this quite personally a lot of the time. Yeah. And I don't think you could ever doubt his commitment in terms of, I think he genuinely does feel he can get this right for Rangers. Time will tell whether he does or not, but again, as we said, he just needs to start winning away games. All the stuff about referees and all like that, just start winning away games and that doesn't matter.
They're going to need to do some business. Leon King came on against Hibs. Good young player. I actually feel a bit sorry for him as well. He's been there a long number of years, and it's kind of pointless him being there now because he's basically the last man to come on. If he's on the bench, he's not played. He's a kid that needs to be a kid. What age is he now? He must be early 20s.
Well, he was still playing with Scotland under 21s recently, so he'd be early 20s.
Early 20s, so he needs to go and get playing. But he's the guy that's having to come on at Easter Road for the last 10 minutes when he's not kicked a ball for Rangers, you know. So they're going to need to get a centre-back. There's been a few names flying around from down south. As yet, nothing concrete and that, but I think they will make a signing in the next few days, if not the next week, in terms of getting a centre-back in. They have to get a centre-back in. Yeah. They have to get someone, a decent experience. And there's been a few younger players mentioned, a few older players mentioned. They need to get someone a fair amount of experience to come in and show up, because I believe my information is that Balogun's a good week away at least from coming back in. Casemiro is still injured.
He's out for the season. He's
for a long time.
John Souttar's wouldn't be any time soon.
He's not any time soon. Even Tavernier, I think, is maybe another couple of weeks away.
The problem is, we've got to do John Stelling, who I think is a very good player and has played, but he's susceptible to picking up injuries. He picked up another one against Hibs, so I think even before the most recent injuries, Rangers needed reinforcements in there, because you're basically now running with, as you say, Leon King and Robin Propper. And Robin Propper was excellent against Celtic, he's been excellent in some of the European games, but in some of the Scottish games, the likes of Martin Boyle, he's going to have Simon Murray running at him at Dens Park as well. He sometimes struggles. So I think a centre-half is an absolute priority as of today.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. There's no doubt about that. Maybe by the time Rangers play on Thursday, they've got someone in. I wouldn't actually surprise me either. I got an email from some bookie this morning. Nothing to do with any account. With my wife's watching this, nothing to do with me. Offering odds on the next Aberdeen manager, which I found diabolical, bordering on what the F, you know. Jimmy Tillini is going through a difficult spell at Aberdeen at the minute, but come on, surely we're not talking about Aberdeen seriously considering changing the manager. They're on a bad run of form at the minute. The wheels have come off again after a stunning start they made. But what would you make of what's going on there?
Well, I think those who maybe predicted not quite as spectacular a sort of collapse as this were viewed as being cynical. Not you're a naysayer. Don't say that. You know, Dream and Aberdeen came out a title bid, right? This was never ever going to be maintained just purely because Aberdeen hadn't done enough transfer business. It was virtually the same team as last year, right? And Jimmy Tillini was very clear. Look, let's play this down. No, that's not happening. But I don't think anybody could ever have imagined going 10 games. They're clearly going to back him. Look, they're signing players. You know. Same was it Ockles from Preston, bringing in Latvia captain. They're going to sign more players, and I think they have to back him. Obviously, that Bojan Miovski money is still swishing about. Get a wee bit of money for Connor Barnes, 600 grand. I think Aberdeen are in long term for this, but you speak about Philippe Clement, Aberdeen are in long term for this project because, again, they can't just rinse and repeat and keep sacking managers. However, their performances and results are miles off it right now, Robert.
Yeah.
Miles off it. And I don't really understand how you can go from being so good and so consistent to you can't win again.
Yeah. We know a little Aberdeen fan, don't we?
We do. Very small.
Very small Aberdeen fan. He's a big fan, but a small man. He's not happy.
No. But I think their mutual friends reaction, who is normally first to say, get X manager out, and there's been a lot of them, is almost quite calm about, not calm, but giving him time. And I think I would think that the majority of the Aberdeen fans can see that Jimmy Tillene has something about him, right? He transformed Elfsborg, came so close, goal difference prevented him from winning the Swedish league against all the odds. I think you can see at the start of the season that the players like him, the players apparently do like him, like his training, like his manner.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
I just think that he was punching above his weight at the start of the season. He got that bounce, and I think everybody bought into it. And I think what really helped Aberdeen, and again, you were called a cynic, Aberdeen's League Cup run all the way to semi-final was very, very favourable. Home games against lower division opposition. They didn't have Europe, so they had loads of coaching time, and they got the best out of them. The games started coming thick and fast, a couple of injuries, a couple of suspensions, and I think it's just probably maybe guys losing a bit of form, and I think it's just caught up with them. If you ask Jimmy Tillene, he would probably say he expected a little bit of a drop-off, nothing even anywhere close to this. But Aberdeen, again, if you'd have said before you'd finish in European places at the start of the season, I think they'd have taken it.
Grabbed that with both hands. That's about us, I think, for this week. Thanks very much for taking the time to watch or listen to Coffee Club podcast this week. Just finally, David, it's tradition. It's usually Mr. Leckie that does this, but we're here at Bella Vita in Glasgow, our favourite restaurant, and as ever, they've looked after us royally. Great coffee, and describe what we've got here, Cake Wife Baking Series.
I was just actually thinking, should it not be a Bush Tucker trial today?
That's wild. Absolutely.
I'm not beating about the bush.
Absolutely wild.
It's, listen, a bit of carrot cake, looks a bit of cheesecake there as well. But Robert, you're going to have to eat it all, because I'm off it.
You're off. I'm off it as well, actually. No, I'm genuinely off it. I'm the scales, stood in the scales the other day, and it wasn't a great reading. But let me tell you,
lovely cakes, lovely hospitality.
You can take me back into the office. I'm not going back to the office. So, guys, we're working our way to you in the office. But yeah, thanks for joining us this week. Hope you enjoyed that chat. We'll see what happens this week with the fixtures tonight. Celtic, Dundee United, Rangers, Danes on Thursday, and all the weekend action. And we'll be back next midweek for the next Coffee Club.